Hi, John here. This is a video on an update on our air source heat pump performance over winter, so 3 months. I know winter's not technically over yet. This was recorded on the 10th of February 2024 and it looks back 3 months from that date. Our coldest day we're going to talk about is -5 degrees Celsius. People in the comments, or some people in the comments, were saying, oh, you're going to freeze, you'll need hats and scarves and everything's going to go wrong. Well, viewers, I'm glad to say nothing has gone wrong. A very quick recap for those that are new. We have a Vaillant aroTHERM Plus, in fact, 7 kilowatt heat pump outside. It's probably not the ideal sort of installation because of the primaries are massive outside. You can see there on the video. Constraint really in terms of location and where we had to install it. I have done a video on microclimating, which I'll put a link to up in the corner. Because one or two people were saying that the location where it is not enough airflow there, so it's going to microclimate. So I've dispelled that in terms of performance. It was installed in July of 2023, commissioned by JMR Heating. I'll put a link to them down below. So we had a range of temperatures. You can see here quite a few frosts. So 10th of January, 1 degree. This was -5 degrees on this particular day. So a real test for the heat pump. The design temperature was at -3. It was a heat loss of 8.5 kilowatts at -3 with a 40 degree flow temperature. Oh yeah, because of the cold weather and the amount of humidity, we've ended up with defrosting cycles. So this is what happens to the back of the condenser radiator at the back here. This is it normally with all the fins, and you can see the coolant running backwards and forwards like a car radiator. And this is it when it frosts up. So it freezes and the air source heat pump detects that and then goes into a defrost mode, which can be quite alarming when you first see it. I managed to capture it on a GoPro here. This is it melting all of the ice on the back of the condenser plate, which will then return it back to its normal state and it will carry on. You can look at that. We've got the open energy monitoring on ours, and you can see here these spikes that drop down. They are the defrosts. It's about 1 every 2 hours in this particular example. And what happens is the flow and return reverses. So the heat pump sort of reverses its operation and pumps the warmer water through all those tubes. Well, I'm guessing through all the tubes, and melts the ice that's forming on the back, or the frost that's forming on the back of the condenser. While that's happening, you don't actually have any heating because the thing's in reverse, but because it's such a short period, less than 10 minutes, I think it's about 8 minutes, it doesn't impact, I think, the overall heating in the house. The only time it would do is if you have a lot of defrost cycles. So here you can see, going back to that previous image, there's 1 every 2 hours. But if it's continually defrosting every 15 minutes or so, cycling as it's also known, then it's going to be affecting performance. This is the 3-port valve. It's a Honeywell 3-port valve, and you can hear the noise here if I shut up. So that's the gurgling in the pipes, which was air trapped in the hot water side of the system. I was concerned that Honeywell wasn't particularly good. You know, it's a standard piece of kit and it's installed in probably most homes, to be honest. It's that well used. But I read a post from Liam in Custom Renewables, who found a fault on a heat pump and traced it to the Honeywell diverter valve. He was saying that Honeywell diverters can't handle a flow rate of anything above 8 kWs at DT5, which is where about ours is. Ours is slightly less. It got me thinking that, well, when Mark next comes, because he was due, I'll get him to remove that. And when it was removed, it's quite interesting when you look inside it. It's really quite constricted. So I did think it may be constricting flow as well. As you see there, it's got quite a small orifice where that ball, the valve, sits, and it's just pushed there by a plunger spring. But I was concerned, A, about its longevity and also how it would deal with the increased flow rates and the fact it was potentially constricting flow. So I chatted to Mark and he recommended fitting an ESB valve, told me which one to get, so I purchased that. And the benefit of those is, that you can see from this diagram here, is that down at the bottom there where I've circled, the valve is like a half moon and it rotates quite slowly. You can hear it takes about 30 seconds to swap from one flow to another. Basically no restriction in the flow. That little sort of square nut there isn't part of the internal mechanism, it's just on the outside of the valve body. So there's a very unrestricted flow. Well, okay, well, we'll have one of those. The only downside of them is that they are very expensive, like 100 quid for the Honeywell diverter valve, whereas you can see this one is coming in at 355, 56 pounds. But anyway, I thought for longevity and for improved flow, it was worth getting. So got it, Mark fitted it. And this was the problem we were having before. I've mentioned it in previous videos. Blue line is the flow rate. You can see there between 1 o'clock and sort of 20 past 1, it's running at about 20 litres a minute. Between sort of 1 o'clock and 1:20, it then goes into a hot water, domestic hot water cycle. And you can see towards the end of that, that's exactly when it reaches about 40 degrees C on the chart there, on the temperature, that it started to erratically flow. And initially we thought it was the valve. We replaced that, and it still happened to a certain extent, but it turned out to be air in the system. And after a lot of bleeding of radiators and the domestic hot water circuit, managed to clear out all of the trapped air, and now this is a typical domestic hot water run where we are running at 20 litres a minute for heating and for domestic hot water. So that's all good. Whilst I was looking at charts for domestic hot water, it's worth having a look at the impact of the outside temperature. So the next three charts look at domestic hot water run. We have our set to 45 degrees Celsius as water temperature, typically running once a day around the warmest part of the day. It's the most efficient time to run it on the air source heat pump. So here, this chart is on the 1st of December. It was 1 degree outside, so quite chilly. You can see the duration takes about an hour to heat the hot water. The COP there is 2.12 for that particular run. The next day it's warmer, so it's 6.8 degrees that we're looking at, so it's the 1st of February. Notice the COP now is 3.17. And then the last chart, even warmer, 11.6 degrees outside, and the COP of 4.05. So you can see there's a massive difference on performance on how warm it is outside in terms of the heat pump, because that's the delta T, the difference between the outside temperature and the water temperature is greatly reduced, so the air source heat pump has less work to do. So next I just want to give you a little bit of an update on how we have our settings, so you've got something to compare against. So this is the Vaillant Sensor Comfort Controller, which we don't use it as a thermostat. You can do, but we don't, because we are on pure weather compensation. So it can tell you what the current room temperature is and what the desired temperature is, what the air humidity is, blah, 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 blah. So that's on the first screen. These are the settings that we have. We're currently running at, when I took this screenshot, the flow temperature was at 27. The outside temperature switch off threshold is 15 degrees, which means when it goes above 15 degrees, the heating will turn off. Heat curve of 0.4, minimum maximum target flows. Setback mode normal, room temperature mode inactive, which means it's using pure weather compensation, and it uses a little chap outside mounted on a north wall in shade, and it's got a little solar panel on the bottom, so it's sort of self-powered, and that monitors the outside temperature and then adjusts the flow temperature of the air source heat pump water in the heating accordingly to maintain the desired room temperature. These are the domestic hot water settings. Again, these are all purely personal. Key ones to look at there is the cylinder charging offset. So whatever figure you have there will add to the temperature of the desired water. So for instance, if you wanted your water to 45, hot water to 45, and you had that set to 5, it would heat the water to 50 in terms of the flow temperature. So it makes a difference in efficiency. The charging is, I can never say this word, hysteresis, that's it, hysteresis, is 7, which is the trigger point on when the heating starts. So when it drops below 7 degrees, below our desired 45, it will heat the hot water if it's on automatic. If it's on a timer, which ours is, then it doesn't make any difference. Bit of historic for you. So from the last 3 months, from the 10th of February, here's the outside temperatures measured by an outdoor temperature sensor, independent one, not the air source heat pump one. So you can see there are quite a range of temperatures. A few dipping below the zeros, but not that many really if you look at it. It's in American format, so it's month/day. And these are the indoor temperatures over the same period. The lowest temperature, I've just highlighted it there. That's the dining room, which is our sort of worst performing room just because of the sheer amount of glass. In the patio doors, we've got a 6-metre run of patio doors. 18, I can't even read that, so it's too small on my screen, 16.8, which was like 5 in the morning. Moving on to the heat pump performance, and this is the Open Energy Monitoring website, which we share our data publicly on there, so you can go and have a look if you like, along with all of the other air source heat pumps. There's more coming on weekly. It is expanding. It's a good source of information. So we find ours, we can drill into it. A cop there over that window of 3.96, so almost 4. What you've got there in terms of the legends, the first vertical y-axis is the cop, which is highlighted on the graph by the little blue circles. The next axis is the outdoor temperature, which is the blue sort of trend line running across the chart. And then you've got the split between the electricity used, which is the blue, and the heat produced, which is the yellow. And you can, as you see there, hover on any one of the columns and it will give you a little pop-up summary of what's what. So 9th of Feb, copper 5.4, using 12.2 kilowatts of electricity to produce 66 kilowatts of heat, and outside was 10.4. Go into the 3-month view. There we go. We've got a copper 4.10, which I'm really pleased with. And just sort of randomly pick out a few days. We've got some low days there. So outside -2, a copper 2.7 for the day, and high electricity use is there, so 49 kilowatt hours. I'm going to read through all of these as you can see them as they pop up on screen. On the really, really cold days, the -2.5, where it's coming to the edge of the design parameters, that I have to up the heat curve, so it produces more heat quicker. Otherwise, the air source heat pump can't keep up with the heat loss from the building. Currently, it's running at a heat curve of 0.4, but in the really cold days, I was turning it up to 0.6, 0.7. So you can move things around, play with the settings. Increasing the heat curve does impact the efficiency in terms of it uses more electricity just to heat the hot water, but don't heat the heating. But you know, if you want to stay warm, that's what you have to do. Comparing that or contrasting that against some of the better days, you've got 5.4 cop here, on the 9th of Feb using just 12 kilowatts of electricity all day. This is over a 24-hour period as well. So let's have a look at one of those in a little bit more detail. So this is the 9th of Feb. You can see there the heat pump's been chugging on and off, running sort of 2 hours at a time with a flow temperature of, what is the flow temperature there? 28 degrees mean flow temperature. And if you remember, we were designed for 40, so we're running well below our design temperature, but still keeping nice and warm. To date, since installation, I did say earlier it was installed in July, which it was, and it was working in July, but it was probably until 20th September, as you can see there, that we ironed out all the little bugs in terms of the installation, got rid of all the air from the system. Because before that it was reporting, or it was under-reporting on open energy monitoring because of the erratic flow with all of the air in the system. It was showing us a COP of like 1 or something like that, which meant that it wasn't actually true to performance. I guess the good thing about the open energy monitoring setup is it did actually highlight that there was a problem, whereas if you looked at the Vaillant information within the app and the control box, it said, yeah, it's fine, it's running okay, no problem at all. Whereas the reality was that there was quite a lot of air still in the system, so it was impacting performance. We had the stats reset on the 20th of September, so that's why it starts from there. But from then, we're currently 4.17 in terms of a SCOP, seasonal coefficient of performance, as opposed to COP, which is a moment in time. Coefficient of performance, COP, is a static point in time, whereas seasonal is over a much longer period of time. Typically 12 months is the preferred SCOP, but as we haven't been running for 12 months yet, you'll have to make do with September to February, which is still almost 6 months. Here is our electricity costs for the same period that we've been looking at last 3 months, so 5th of November through to 4th of February, over 3 statements. And we do really target the low rate, cheap rate time slots heavily. 1600 kilowatt hours over the course of the month, 1.6 megawatts. And the majority of that is at the cheap rate, so it worked out on average 9.95 pence per kilowatt hour cost wise. The next bill is December through to the beginning of January, with less peak rate used, more overall usage, which we'd expect because it was colder than November. This also includes car charging as well, so it's all of our electricity. This isn't just heat pump usage. I'll break heat pump down in a minute, you'll see that them at the end. Our heaviest month, January, which was 2.1 megawatts, and again you can see there the split between cheap rate and peak rate. With the benefit of having battery and what have you, really do manage to stay out of the peak rate, although I have found that we do eat into the peak rate quite a lot, and it means we probably need a second battery to help us ease through those peak rates. Ripple savings has been exemplary this year, so these are the 3 months which relate to the bills I've just shown you. So we get a credit of those 3 amounts there, which brings a total of £410.73. Incidentally, that saving has dramatically reduced for next year from March. This year it was because of the crisis with the energy pricing, so we did sort of benefit from having a 27 pence, I think it was 27 pence rate, whereas now it's gone back to a much more realistic 6 pence, I think it is. Can't quite remember off the top of my head. We've also then got the other service coming online as well. So we've got the Kirkhill wind farm coming on in sort of May time. So hopefully by next winter time we will have both payments coming in for both farms, and that should cover our electricity costs. That's the plan anyway. I did say I would cover what the heat pump used over the course of those 3 months, so here's the data for that. This is taken from the Open Energy Monitoring data set. So you can see there sort of corresponds to the electric bills as well in terms of the ramp up in electricity usage over those 3 months. This usage is doing heating and hot water, it's worth mentioning. So the costs for that, based on our average unit price on our electricity there across those 3 bills, comes in at £145. If we add in our credit from Ripple Energy, which gets credited straight to our account, we ended up over the 3 months in credit by £265.26. That is our heat pump story, our usage over the 3 months in winter. Any questions, drop them down below and I'll pick them up. Okay, thanks for watching. Take care. Bye.